Okay, so now we're talking about lead services. All right, so lead services, we'll start with how they work. So what a lead service is a company that generates customers and then they send them to contractors and charge a fee. That's essentially what it is. So if you look at all of these companies, Painter Choice, CraftJack, Thumbtack, Porch, HomeAdvisor, Angie's List, Yelp, all of these companies advertise online to massive amounts of customers, and then they get customers who want painting estimates, and then they send those customers to their network of painters. So you can join this network of painters, and then you pay whatever their fees are to be a part of the service. All right, and so you basically are paying money for customers. So it's a great thing, all right, because you literally just get to trade money for customers. So that's how they work. So it's pretty straightforward. So the keys to succeeding with all these different companies is, number one, first and foremost, you have to respond very, very quickly. All of these services are generating customers online. And online, people expect an immediate return. They want a return phone call instantly. So you have to respond very quickly. And when I say very quickly, I mean like less than 30 minutes. No matter what time of day, like you got to respond quick. If you wait 2 hours to call these leads, your conversion drops. And if you remember in the first marketing video, we talked about what a huge impact conversion can make. Because either way you spend the money on these services, you're spending the money either way. So you need to make sure you get in front of as many customers as possible and close as many of those jobs as possible. So you have to be fast to respond. Second, you have to have a strong sales process. We talked about that in an earlier video. We also talked in an earlier video about how you need to track marketing and make adjustments. This is a very important one. You should be tracking every single day, like how many leads you got, how many estimates you set up from each lead service, and just track that. We track this on a daily basis. How many leads did we get from every single lead provider? How many estimates did we set up? At the end of the week, we look at our results and we say, what do we need to tweak? What do we need to change? All right, so then what can you adjust? And the answer to what can you adjust is in the question, what can you control? Okay, so all these lead services are a little bit different. With Painter Choice, that one's like probably the simplest out of all these because there's not much you can do. You basically select the types of leads, you get text message and email the lead. All you can really do with Painter Choice is call quicker, email, and actually when you sign up for Painter Choice, there's a free training you can take and you get 2 more leads for free. And when you take that training, we walk through just a few really key things. But essentially your process should be to call immediately, call again later that day, call the next day. So we call and we email, and then we call later that day, and then we call the next day, and then we call the next day, and then we call 2 days later, and then 3 days later, and then every week. Okay, so we extend, and then maybe throw another email in right here, maybe throw in a text message right here. All right, so it's about follow-up and then a strong sales process. So that's the main thing here. CraftJack, so CraftJack has like a profile. So you create a profile and you can get reviews on your profile and you can put pictures and all that stuff. So in addition to the fast response and strong sales process, you can update your profile with CraftJack and make that profile look better and better. That's something you can control. You look at Thumbtack. Thumbtack is a little bit different, and I'll put below the different strategies for these different services so you kind of have an outline of what the strategy is. But with Thumbtack, you send them a message. Okay, so you send them a message. You also have a profile, so you can update and change your profile. You can change your profile picture, your profile description, your company description. You can add more pictures. You can get more reviews. You can make sure you take the background check. You can change the first message you send. You can send follow-up messages. Because with Thumbtack, they don't send you the customer information. You just can communicate through the site, and you have to talk the customer into giving you their phone number. Porch. This is another lead service similar to Painter Choice and CraftJack. HomeAdvisor, they have I want to draw a line right here, okay? Because these are the services I would always start with, these 4, okay? And I'll tell you why in a second. So, keys to success: fast response, a strong sales process. You need to track your results, and if you're not getting the results you want, you need to see what can you change, like what can you control that you can change to tweak to improve your results. And ultimately what you're looking for is with services like Painter Choice, CraftJack, and Porch, and HomeAdvisor, you're looking to set up, you want to set up at least 70% of your estimates, or of your leads into estimates. And you want to track how much did you sell and how much did you spend. And you want this to be 10% or lower. Now the thing is though, is if your average job size is $3,000, that means 10% is $300. So when you start with lead services, keep that in mind. You need to spend, like when we test things, we spend at least $1,000, because you might spend your first $300 and not book anything, but then by the time you've spent $500, you might book 2 jobs for $6,000. Or you might book one $7,000 job. Like with Painter Choice, we just had a customer the other day who booked a $7,700 job on his 4th lead. But if you only got 10 leads and spent $350, and that 11th lead was a $7,700 job, but you didn't get the 11th lead because you gave up too early, then you just totally miss out on that. So you want to make sure to track these numbers, and you need to track and adjust, and you need to test these services long enough to know if it's effective or not. And the reason I say to start with these is because I've worked with all of these, and these 4 companies, we have at least these 3. We haven't tested Porch enough for me to say for sure, but so far it's been good. But these 3 companies, we consistently get good results with. Like we just consistently get good results. Now Porch, we're testing a little bit newer, but so far I like Porch. Now I would say to be very hesitant about these 3. Okay, HomeAdvisor is the biggest, but they're the meanest. All right, they're the most expensive. They send the leads to the most contractors. They're really difficult to work with and get refunds. Like they don't treat their contractors very well. Like that's been the hardest one. We've had to spend like $3,000 or $4,000 on HomeAdvisor before we figured out kind of how to work it, and we still haven't really figured out how to work it. We're still working out the kinks. So I'm not even going to put a strategy down for HomeAdvisor because I don't endorse you using them yet. If you choose to use HomeAdvisor, just be willing to spend a lot of money to figure it out. Their leads can be atrociously expensive. I saw someone spend $125 on a single lead that didn't turn in an estimate. It's kind of crazy. So HomeAdvisor, you just be careful with because they're expensive. They can get you a lot of leads and you can succeed, but it's going to take a lot more testing and adjusting. Angie's List are like it's like robbery, man. And same with Yelp. Both of these I would be careful with. I would do Yelp before I do Angie's List, but the problem with both of these is Angie's List has been around so long that first of all, they make you sign like a 1-year contract. They made us sign a $5,000 1-year contract and they didn't get us any leads. And it's really hard to compete with the companies that have 100 and 200 reviews on Angie's List when you're just starting and you have 0. So it's really expensive and it's hard to really get the ball rolling with Angie's List. So we don't even use Angie's List. And then Yelp, Yelp kind of blows because if you don't pay them, if you get reviews on Yelp, they don't count your reviews unless you're paying them. And if you're paying them, the thing is one customer can leave one bad review and totally tank your results. So I had a friend who was getting 35 leads a month from Yelp, and then he had one customer who just came after him and wrote like a really bad review on Yelp, and he went from 35 leads a month to 5. And so then he stopped paying for Yelp, and they removed a bunch of his good reviews. And so they're in all kinds of heat, and there's a whole documentary on Yelp, just basically not putting up your reviews unless you pay them. It's like total extortion. So I really don't support that company from the experiences my friends and coworkers have had. Angie's List, I don't really endorse because I had a terrible experience working with them as well. HomeAdvisor, it's hard. I don't really endorse because I've had such terrible experiences, but that's a pay-per-lead. These are more contracts and rely on reviews, where HomeAdvisor doesn't rely on reviews. It's still a lead service, so you can figure that one out. So those are the ones I'd start. I think that's all I've got to say about lead services. Essentially, you start with one, get leads, test. You've got to be really rigorous with these things, though. I can't stress it enough. All of these services can work and can bring you a tremendous amount of business. So I just want to do one more example. So let's say any one of these services, let's say they can generate you 30 leads per month. Now, if you can turn that into 70% conversion, that's 21 estimates. If you have just an average sales process, you should be able to sell $20,000 on 20 estimates. That's really consistent numbers I've had over the years is $1,000 per estimate. So if you get 30 leads, 21 estimates, 20,000, and let's say we're in phase 2 and your profit margin is only 20%, that's $4,000 in profit per month from one lead service. That's $48,000 per year. So my question is, how much money and time are you willing to spend to master each lead service? Because if you can do this, and then you can do it, and you can get 30 leads a month on these services in bigger cities, in Dallas, Denver, Philadelphia, like I keep going, the big cities in the country, you can get these kind of results. And if you can do this with 4 of these services, you can make your whole business from it. You can make $200,000 a year just on lead services. So there's a tremendous opportunity in lead services. We use these services with every single one of our companies. You just got to be aware that it's a risk. You're spending money. You're not guaranteed any results. It's your job to make yourself get results. And the way to do that is to make sure you respond very quickly, have a really strong sales process, track your numbers, make adjustments, and honestly, reach out to customer service if you're not having success, because these companies want you to keep buying leads. Like, that's the biggest problem with lead companies. It's we always need more people buying leads, because most painting companies out there aren't running painting companies the way we're running a painting company. Most painting companies are doing jobs here and there. They've got one crew, they book them up, and all that kind of stuff. So my point about that is, if you're not having success, before you cancel, call and complain, and they'll usually work with you, and that'll buy you a little bit more time to figure things out. So lead services are great. You just got to work them, and that really covers our marketing. So if I wrap it up, we've got door-to-door. We've got all the free networking and referral stuff. We've got website stuff, and we got lead services. That is all the marketing that I've done with my company, and we're going to do about $2.5 million with Foothills Painting this year. We're going to do close to $5 million with all of our companies this year. We have a company that's in its second year doing $800,000, another doing $700,000, another doing $600,000 their second year, and it's just using all the marketing that I've covered in this course. And there's a ton more. So remember the principles. Keep reviewing those videos if you need to. It's all here for you to build a business.